start in just a couple minutes, so if you can find your seats, please do that. Everybody's outside.
I just need to get closer to it. We'll start in just a couple minutes, so if anyone is outside, come in, be seated. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. Just a couple of announcements at the beginning. You can hear me now? First announcement is you have to go very close to this to pick up the voice. So if you're going to be coming up here for speech, you have to do that. I think most everyone knows my mother is, she had a back injury, so please be very gentle with her. Come down to her level, holding hands, hugs are okay, just be very, very gentle. And her right ear is better, so if you want to have a conversation, just go on the right side. And so, just with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Panditji here to begin the ceremony.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Hari Om, Hari Om. Hari Om, Hari Om. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram. Jai Shri Ram. Hari Om. Good morning, yes, again. So all of you know, today we are here for let Mr. Murli Manohar Gupta last rites. In Hinduism, we have 16 main ceremonies. When baby comes mom's belly, that called Garbhadhan Samskar. And what prayers now doing, that called Antim Samskar last rite. So anyone born will die. And when baby born, newborn baby has to cry. If baby doesn't cry, then doctor and nurses they make the baby cry. And what is the reality? When person dies, the person joy and family cry. When baby born, baby cry, family joy. They laugh. And when person dies, really the person joy and family cry. So when baby born, cannot bring anything, and when person dies, cannot take anything, doesn't matter whatever he or she has. So, according to Hinduism, this body made with 5 elements: fire, air, sky, earth, water. So, this is the 5 kingdoms that are significant for 5 elements. And really, if you see, no one took anything from the Murli Manohar. Everything is there, all the body parts, everything is there. But when soul leaves the Atma, soul leaves the body, that dies. But according to Hinduism, Lord Krishna said, Atma ajar hai, amar hai, shashwat hai. The soul is eternal, never born, never die. So, we have so many relationships in this world, but who is very important in our life? Our parents. And between both parents, first mother, then father. For all of you, father is not physically here, but mother, now mothers become mother and father both. After fathers, mothers become mother and father both. But after mother, father never become mother and father. So all of you just always respect your mom and listen to your mom. And really parents they don't want anything from the children or grandchildren. Whatever they have, they give us. What they want, my child, my children, my grandchildren, always happy and be successful in their life. So whatever parents they do for us, we cannot give back to them. But what is the Riti Rivaj, like minutes, then have a speech, and after speech, I will read the Gayatri Mantram and Gita. So three things is very important after death: Ganga, Gita, and Gayatri. Always we put the acid also in the river Ganga, or we put Ganga Jal, Tulsi, and read Gita and Gayatri. So after Gita chanting, then 11 times Gayatri Mantra we have to chant, and then for 1 minute silent prayer for his soul and for the king. Om Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Gadadaya Mangalam Puttarikakshay Mangalaya Janvari Apavitra Pavitrova Sarvavasthanga Dojava Yasmret Pundarikaksham Savaya Chandrasudi Bhadram Karnevi Shunyama Deva Bhadram Pashe Makuttaha Sirerangai Sushavagam Satanobhir Shemahi Deva Bhadram Jalayo Satavindu Sarado Ante Deva Jana Sakra Yasantanana Uttaso Shakro Bhavanamano Dhari Sargan Doho Aditya Devakin Mata Sita Vishwe Deva Aditi Pansana Aditya Mukti Soma Apo Sham Bhavat Sanu Jithatana Mahirana Tse Yuva Sima Tasirhaje Dena Usti Sandra Tasmaranga Mamwa Bhadram Karne Shunyama Deva Bhadram Pashe Makuttaha Sirerangai Sushavagam Satanobhir Shemahi Deva Bhadram Jalayo Satavindu Sarado Ante Deva Yatra Sakra Yasantanama Uttaso Jitro Bhavanti Mano Dhari Sargan Doho Aditya Devakin Sumatir Mata Sapita Sutra Vishwe Deva Aditi Panchadana Aditya Aditya Soma Aposhtam Bhuvat Mano Jitratana Mahirana Sute Yuva Sma Tasirhaje Dena Usti Matra Asmat Muhammad Sikya Dhamma Apojani Sadhana Om Swaha Sutna Ukha Shedaha Swatina Sarakavish Nemi Sutino Vishpatika Dhatu Riktasam Rukha Matra Bhanja Vanu Vite Krishya Agni Jiva Mama Om Om Bhuva Bhuva Om Swaha Om Mah Om Jana Om Tapa Om Satyam Om Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodaya Om Apo Jyoti Raso Amritam Brahma Bhur Bhuva Swaro Om Jaggo Paritam Paramam Paritam Prajapatiriya Sahajam Prasad Ayusham Agram Pramsam Jaggo Paritam Namasteja Jaggo Paritharane Yoga Om Jaggo Paritam Sasya Shikramani Gayatri Chanda Nodeta Jaggo Paritharane Yoga Hari Om Swaha Hari Om Swaha Satna Bhukha Vishvedaha Swastina Starasho Shneme Swastino Brihaspati Dhatu Prithaswa Marta Prishnamatra Subhanja Vano Vrite Kudamaya Agni Deva Manama Sut Prithasho Vishveno Deva Avashagamanne Bhadram Karne Vishunayama Deva Bhadram Vaste Makrujataha Sirerangai Sushavagam Satino Vishemahi Deva Hitam Jalayo Satamindra Sarado Ante Deva Yatrana Sukra Jarasankan Munama Putraso Jatpitaro Bhavanti Mano Madhyari Rishtayagantoho Aditya Devgarantar Chamaditya Mata Sapita Saputra Visve Deva Aditi Panchadana Aditya Jatam Aditya Janitwamma Om Devaho Shanti Rantar Chivam Shanti Prithvi Shanti Rapa Shanti Roshadaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shanti Vishve Deva Shanti Brahma Shanti Sarvam Shanti Shanti Reva Shanti Sama Shanti Revi Yato Yata Samihase Tato No Abhayam Guru Shannaha Guru Prajabhyo Bhayannaha Pasubhya Om Samukasya Galantasya Kapiloga Karnaka लंबोदरस्य विष्टोभिनाशो विनायका धूम्रकेतुर्नादच्छो भारतन्द्रोगजान्ना द्वादशैतानि नामानि यः पठेत् शृणुयादपि विद्यारम्भे विवाहे च प्रवेशे निर्गमे तथा संग्रामे संकटे चैव विघ्नस्तस्य न जायते शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये अभीष्टार्थसिद्ध्यर्थपूजितो यः सुरासुरैः सर्वविघ्नहरस्तस्मै गणाधिपतये नमः सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते सर्वदा सर्वकार्येषु नास्तितेषां मङ्गलम् येषां हृदिस्थो भगवान् मङ्गलाय तनोहरे तदेव लग्नं सुदिनं तदेव ताराबलं चन्द्रबलं तदेव विद्याबलं दैवबलं तदेव लक्ष्मीपते ते नृगस्मरामि लाभस्तेषां जयस्तेषां कुतस्तेषां पराजयः येषां नित्यविरसामो हृदयस्थो जनार्दनः यत्र योगेश्वरः कृष्णो यत्र पार्थो धनुर्धरः तत्र श्रीविजयो भूतिर्ध्वानि तिर्मतिर्मम अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो मां ये जनाः परिभाषते तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम् स्मृते सकलकल्याणं भाजनं यत्र जायते पुरुषं तमिदं नित्यं व्रजामि शरणं हरिं सर्वेष्वारम्भकारेषु त्रयस्तु भुवनेश्वराः देवासन्तु नासिद्ध्यं ब्रह्मेषां जनार्दना विश्वेशं माधवं पुण्यं चन्द्रमाणिक्य भैरवं वन्दे काशीं गुहाङ्गन्धां भवानी मणिकर्णिकां वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा ॐ मम भद्रं कर्णेभिर्याम देवा भद्रं पश्येमाकृताः श्रेयङ्करश्चवागं सत्तनोभिक्षेमैते वैकुञ्जरायो सतमिन्द्र सर्वो अन्त्यदेवादित्रामस्कादसन्दनं नाम मम माता स्वर्गीय श्रीमान श्रीलिपिकटनीय माता में एन स्वायुमे प्रपितामह प्रमातामह आंद्रे प्रपितामह ईवा गोष्ठास्ति देवता महायोगी देवता नमः सुखाय नमः सुखाय मम प्रपितामही राम मर्णी गुप्ता नाम जैसे बंसल को तथा तस्वे सुधा अदम को पुतना नाम जैसे कौशल को प्रखंड अदम को पुतना कौशल को पुतना विलेज की ट्रेनिया नाम जैसे तस्में सुधा अदम को पुतना कौशल को पुतना एना तस्में सुधा अदम को पुतना जैसे आंध्र ट्रेनिया नाम जैसे तस्में सुधा नाम जैसे कौशल को पुतना ईवा की तस्में सुधा गताना निवर्तन्ति भूया तमेव चाद्यं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये यथा प्रवृत्ते कृष्णा पुराणे निर्माण मोहा संगदोषा अध्यात्मयुक्ता विवृत्तकामा द्वन्द्वैर्मुक्ता सुखदुःखसङ्गैर् गच्छन्ति मूढा पदमभ्यन्त न तद्भाषते सूर्यो न शशाङ्को न पावकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूता सनातना मनःष्ठानीन्द्रियाणि प्रतिष्ठानि कर्तति शरीरं यद्वाप्नोति यच्चापक्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुगन्धानि वासय श्रोत्रं चक्षुस्पर्शनं च रसनं घ्राणमेव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायं विषयान् विषेवते उत्क्रामन्तं सुखं वापि पुण्यान् वा गुणान्वितं विमूढाः नाम पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषा यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्तात्मन्यवसितं यतन्तो विगतात्मानं नैनं पश्यन्ति चेतसा यदादित्यगतं तेजो जगद्भासयतेऽखिलं यच्चन्द्रमसि यच्चाग्नौ तत्तेजो विद्यमामकं गामाविश्य च भूतानि धारयाम्यह मोजुषा पुष्णामि चौषधे सर्वा सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मका अहं वैश्वानरो भूत्वा प्राणिनां देहमाश्रिता प्राणापानसमायुक्ता पचामन्यं सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तास्त्रिज्ञानमपोहनं च वेदैः सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृतवेदविदेव चाहं गायनो पुरुषो लोके चरक्षाक्षरेव च चराक्षरवाणि भूतानि कूटस्थोऽक्षरोच्यते उत्तमः पुरुषस्तन्यः परमात्मेतु दायकः यो लोकत्रयमाविश्य विभक्तव्यैश्वरः यस्माक्षरमतीतोऽहम् अक्षरादपि चोत्तमान् अतोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च कर्ता पुरुषोत्तमा यो मामेव सम्मूढो जानाति पुरुषोत्तमं स सर्वविद्वजति माम सर्वभावेन भारत इति गुह्यतमं शास्त्रम् इदमुक्तं मया एतद्बुद्ध्वा बुद्धिमानस्य कृतकृत्यश्च भारत ॐ श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे कृष्णार्पणमस्ते पुरुषोत्तम योगानन्दतत्त्वज्ञाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Ranji, thank you very much for that. Thank you for the guidance. Thank you for walking us through that. I know there are a lot of people here who probably want to speak a limited time, so I want to make sure that family and friends don't have a chance to do that. We have all day after this to meet with one another and talk and discuss. At this point, I want to call my older sister and family to come up and say a few words.
Good morning. Thank you all so much for coming. Dad would have loved to see everybody together. I think that's the one thing that I really want to kind of take home and highlight from his very long and illustrious life, as we've learned, is that he took everybody in. He never said a bad word about anybody, and everybody became family. I have a lot of my friends here, and that's because they became family from the second that I met them, because he said they were family. He and my mom together. So this room is full of brothers and sisters, and aunties and uncles, because those two with my dad were always so welcoming and made everyone family. I'm a project manager, so I'm going to keep this rolling. And I'm going to ask my sister and my brother to come on out, and we can do this together as a family. And Minnie.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about what I wanted to say today. I'm grateful to have been flooded by so many good memories of my dad over these past few days, and to have had him in so many chapters of my life. It's hard to choose just one story. And that reminds me of the time when my husband, JP, and I were stressing about what school to send our children, Alon and Ethan, to. I asked my dad for advice about what he thought we should do. He said, don't agonize over it. Just make the best choice you can, and the kids will be all right. My sons love spending time with Grandpa. They say, he's so nice. He always gives us hugs, and he makes really good food, like paneer parathas. I told my boys that the reason it might hurt so much right now is that Grandpa's heart was so big, and all that love is being spread out into all of us, like a muscle that grows and gets stronger. One memory in particular keeps coming back to me. In July 2000, my dad had open heart surgery. That summer, I was also applying to my first high school job. When I went to see my dad in the hospital after the procedure, the first thing he said was, "How did the interview go?" That was so like him, to care and worry about us before himself. As he recovered at home, my dad and I took short, peaceful walks on the trail behind our house, around the block, and into our cul-de-sac. I'm so glad that I had that time with him. On the night my dad passed away, there was a supermoon in the sky. It's a special full moon. It looks like it's very close to the earth. My children and I noticed it and felt its light shining bright. Dad, thank you for the many lessons and values that together with Mom you shared with us, to always seek knowledge, friendship, and beauty. I love you, and I miss you.
So I shouldn't have followed that, but that was wonderful. We have a very similar theme, I think, as well. And as I was trying to encapsulate, how do you summarize such a full life? And seeing everyone here, having everyone reach out, hearing all your stories, that's how you do it. Similar to Monica, there was one story that came to mind. Mom and Dad, so if I live in Richmond, Mom and Dad would come frequently because it's only a couple hours away. And our kids, Cecilia and Francis, would always get so excited. They wait by the door of the guest room. Grandpa awake yet? And once Grandpa was up, they'd follow him downstairs, and Grandpa would read them stories until he needed to take a break to make chai, and then he'd go right back to reading them stories. And he loved seeing them, just like he loved all his grandkids. And that's what I thought of first, was just he loved being around family. He loved everybody, and just seeing everyone, neighbors from near and far, everyone coming, friends, family, reaching out, calls, texts. Mom said it, but people say it's the thought that counts, and you realize it really is seeing all the thoughts and everything. And for me, the last time I saw Dad, it was Saturday morning. And I was driving home to Richmond, and like you'd always do, he's standing at the porch, making sure he waits until I'm all the way out of sight, waving, beautiful sunny day. And no matter what, he's watching, waving until I left the court and left sight, checking in when I get home, making sure I'm there. And I want everyone to leave with that same thought, keep that nice memory that I know everyone has, because people told me all stories, and it's always amazing to hear, just from all walks of life and all parts where everyone has their stories, because everyone has a dad story. I love you. I miss you.
It's all right. I'll go at the end, if that's okay. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to ask my dad's siblings, Auntie Usha, Tata, Auntie Lata, and Auntie Bruno, to come on up and say a few words.
My big brother and his family and us moved to US in 1978. It's a long time journey together, 46 years of our life. Our kids were born each close to each other and grew together, and we spent a lot of Thanksgiving and Christmas together. We always look forward to come to DC and just to have Auntie Elsie's food. Everyone looks forward to it, and the fun time here in DC. It's just so hard to think about DC without him. It's gonna be so hard to think about it. His unconditional love and support were always there and very unmatchable. Nobody can match that. He was always ready to pick and drop anyone from airport any time of the day or night. He always put family first above anything else, and he made sure he was present at every event of wherever it is. He created a WhatsApp group where USA and India can come together and know the latest of each other. He was a world traveler, but when he went to India, whenever he went, he just never had time to go around, just spend the time with the family. So it just, he didn't get much, he didn't think it was a priority. He will always be in our hearts, and we'll miss him forever. We love you.
Mama always came from oldest daughter, RV. So I was actually born in Washington D.C. and I came to their house before we even came to my house. So Mama always came to my graduation to come visit me even in undergrad. I think one time I called her to say what do I do when we come visit her, and so he took us out for dinner. And then Chelsea both came. This was my college roommate saw Chelsea. She's so fair. But we'll always have so many fun memories with him. His love was unmatchable, but he always made you feel like you mattered. You didn't have to do anything to feel that way. He just naturally made you feel like you mattered. Everything that you did was important to him. I wish he had invented the flight tracker app. He pretty much was the flight tracker app before it came about. He didn't just know what time your flight was coming in, he knew where that flight was coming, so he would let you know if there was going to be a delay. So, I mean, he was just an amazing person, and I hope to continue to embody his presence in our lives and our kids' lives.
Hi debug on the the one thing is, my wife couldn't be here, but Murli Mama, we moved here in 2007, and me and my wife were very scared. We started working, and the first thing we did was we came to Murli Mama, where should we live, what should we do? And he was always giving us advice. When we first came here, my wife started her job earlier. The honest memory was I had to go back to Cincinnati and pick up all the stuff. And for 1 week, Murli Mama and Elsie Mommy took care of my wife. She was around and always able to come home. So we knew that we had the love and support here in DC for the 3 years and always impacted us. So I say thank you. We love you, Mama.
I'm Teresa. I'm the middle child. So I finished training and then moved here in 2012. And Mama was the first person when he found out to say, "What do you need help with? How can I make it easier?" And he was there. And I remember the first time on my first paycheck, I took him out to lunch. And that was so amazing. And he was always helpful. I remember from the time we were kids, he was just like second dad. And we're gonna miss him.
Hi everyone. I'm Gupta. I'm the youngest brother. I was not even 13 when our dad passed away. Can you all hear me? Bhaiya just stepped right in. Growing up, I was so carefree. I did not feel the need for a father. My mom was there, like what did you say? Mom took the role of mother and father. And then Bhaiya, we lovingly called Bhaiya Murli. He was the grandfather. He would be there always. He helped us, my mother, financially. He was looking after her well-being, was raising his own family, taking care of his responsibilities. He participated in all the happiness, all the sorrows, not only us, but family. And for me personally, I was so carefree. Growing up, him and my sister, Usha, they put in for us, the siblings. I moved here in '87, and Bhaiya was right there along the way. And help is one thing, but he was so kind and loving, and he was like my brother all the time, and my dad if I need any advice or anything. And it's always fun, like Usha said, that it's always fun to come to DC. I can count him on advice. Since he's gone, I'm feeling I'm truly feeling awful now. So I just want to say his love, his kindness, his compassion, was just amazing, and nobody can replace that. And I'm so thankful that he is my brother, and I have so many good memories with him.
I'm Megha. I'm the youngest of all the cousins. A couple things I remember from Dauji. One, I had my an arm day throwaway dance performance back when I graduated high school. He was front row, and I remember there was for some reason a light focused on him, and he was the only person I could see in the audience. And he was smiling and nodding his head and like playing the air drum along the entire 3-hour performance, just like enjoying his heart out. And he was the only person I could see. He kind of kept me going because I could see that he was enjoying it and having a great time the entire time. And then also my birthday is Pi Day. It's like 14th of March, and every single year he always messages me, "Happy Pi Day," and I say his birthday, and a little word about pi and the history of pi. And it's always, I was looking through our text actually, it's always just so fun to see his message, and I always know what I'm getting every year. So it's really kind of nice.
today, and they had to make me here. To put his exam on Friday and on Monday. I was talking to him like 10 hours before. I never realized that that was the last time I could hear him. He was a father figure for all of us after my father passed away almost 49 years ago. He took care of all of us in every time and kept us together as a family. I remember when Neha was born in New Jersey, he was the first one to come there in the hospital after a few hours. He said, oh, I have to be the first one because I have to report my mom. And my mother was in India at that time. And Rahul, the whole family came to visit us. And after that, every occasion, every birthday, every time he's there. Neha's all graduation, Sweet 16, everything, every time he's there. We'll miss him dearly. I can always count on him for anything. And like at least once a week or twice a week we used to talk. And all nonsense half the time. It's not meaningful, but still we talked. We just feel this part of us is gone. We are not the same what we used to be. But I hope we will stay together. I'm so grateful for him, whatever he did for us. For his love, support, guidance, and everything. We'll miss you forever. Whatever you did for us. And let's celebrate and pay forward his legacy of love, kindness, and support for all the families. Let's stick together to family. So I am the youngest sister of the four siblings, and we are just, everybody said, everything about him. There's not much, but he was the constant source of support and guidance for all of us. His wisdom, kindness, and steady presence profoundly shaped our lives. He's no more with us right now, but his memories and love he gave will always remain with our heart. Bhaiya just recently visited with me, and you must have seen a lot of pictures to India. Even though he just visited in August, he said, hey, I am going to retire and I will spend some time together with you. So for a month, me, my husband, Harvish, and Bhaiya went to India. And we went to Jagannath Puri, we went everywhere, and it was so fun, and I'm blessed that we spent some time together. He was like my sister, like he was a father figure. We were very young when our father passed away, and he took care of us. He and Bhabi, they did all the support financially. Then they moved us. We got married in Cincinnati with the help of my big sister and Bhaiya. I mean, he did everything. He's there always for us. Any occasion, you know, it's just. And then whenever we go vacation or anywhere, he's our emergency contact. He knows where people are going, people coming. He was our flight tracker, like Ram says. It's just hard to know that Bhaiya is not here. DC without Bhaiya is no DC. It's just, it's hard for us. But life has to be on. So Bhaiya, we all love you. Hope you will come back some other day. We pray for you. Thank you.
Well, we are a great personality. I always admire him. And he was always saying such a precious time with all. And especially I am admired. When he visited Cincinnati, then in Cincinnati we had three our family, and then Lata's family, Usha's family, Usha and Satish and my mother. Then we know every day we go party, playing cards, how I really miss that. listening to such a precious time. And like everyone said, any event in the family, and they're there, he's always there. That's what the great thing about him. He always comes, like in the post-graduation, or graduation, or anything. Birthday, every time he's there. Like everyone. We'll be always missing him. And our sincere sympathy with the family, and may God bless his soul, rest in peace.
Hi everyone, I'm Knuckle, I'm Gupta's son, and one of many nephews to Murli Mama. Very grateful to be here today, and I agree with the theme that everyone's mentioned is Murli Mama was a man with a big heart and a true family man. Growing up, I only had one grandmother, but Murli Mama also fulfilled the role as a true patriarch of our family. He was there at all our events, my graduations, all our parties. He would not miss a thing. You could always depend on Murli Mama to be there, and my fondest memories in DC was coming almost every Memorial Day weekend and celebrating my birthday here. He's the one who would go out of his way to have a cake ready and to celebrate and to sing with me. And that truly was some of my fondest memories. And DC is never going to be the same without him, but his spirit will continue to live on with all of us. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Mika. I'm the younger daughter of Queen and Harish. Kind of similar things of my mom always being there for all of us. There's a lot of nephews and nieces, and he was at every single one of our major events. Similarly, I remember growing up taking a long drive from Ohio to DC, and I always look forward to going to his home, your home, and kind of being there yesterday without him. Just it felt different because that home has, I feel like, imprinted on all of us growing up. But definitely gonna miss him and really thank him for everything that he's been there for all of us.
Thank you all very much. I know some people have traveled a very long distance to be here, some family, so Bay, it's good if you'd like to come and say a few words. That's quite all right.
So, my earliest memories of Murli Chacha are actually from middle school. It was in Bareilly, India. I had lost my dad a couple of years ago. I was shy, I loved math, and I think I was slowly lacking role models. Meeting Murli Chacha was magical for me. He was smart, he was good looking. He had a beautiful wife, Auntie Elsie. They looked like they were just incredible. He was a professor of math. But most importantly, he listened and he cared. He talked to my mom, he listened to her, and he said, Bhabiji, send her to America to study. And sure enough, I came to America to go to grad school. When I came here, it was Murli Chacha who picked me up from the airport, from the Dallas airport, where I come to say goodbye to him. And he took me to his house. He told me, when you are in US, this is your home, and he meant it. It was such an anchor for me. I came here all the time. Then I moved to California. He's a world traveler. He would come, he would visit. We would share stories. We would have good laughs, and he always gave me such great advice. But he was really special to me. That is just the way he was with so many people. You can tell how many people he made his family. He showed up with so much love, so much kindness, so much caring. He left us too soon. But his memories live with us, and when I think of him, it will help me think about being a little bit better, a little bit kinder. So thank you, Murli Chacha, and thank you all. It's an honor for me to be here.
Uncle Hansi, I think you might be the one in the room who's known him longest. Yeah, so if you could come up and say a few words, please.
opportunity for honoring the memory of Murli, our dearest friend for a very long time. Umi, Suren, and I, we got to know Murli in 1967. I don't know how long ago that was. Can't calculate. And we all ended up going to this really small town in Saskatchewan, Canada. Ever heard of it? Small town, Saskatoon. And a population of 60,000. We were all from India. We had a totally different culture than culture here. Here, when you want to turn the light switch on, you take that, turn it up. In India, we did it by pushing it down. Here, people walked on, drove on the right-hand side of the road. We did on the left. So we didn't even know how to deal with our circumstances at that time in this country. So we looked towards Murli. That guy, as you all know, he was totally restless. He had to do things, he had to think of ways which would get us out of all sorts of problems. And I know we did go through a bunch of problems. So, by looking at him, what I found that his number one thing was studies, because that's what we came here for. So work hard. But he also liked to have fun. So, what did we do? He got involved in, there was an association called India-Canada Association. And he maneuvered to get elected president. I don't know if it was president or secretary, it was one of those. And the India-Canada Association did things like celebration of Diwali, dances, food, so. And everybody was invited there, so we got to know each other a little bit closely. And we also got Canadian students to come and eat Indian food. I mean, nobody had eaten Indian food before. I mean, I think 1967, it's just meat and potatoes. So anyways, so that's one thing he did. Another thing that India-Canada Association did was get Indian movies. And so it involved, number one, finding what movie, number two, where to get it from. And he found out that if you contacted the Indian, we call embassy here, High Commission in Canada. So he got in touch with those people, got pictures, set up, made posters. I mean, we got involved, and we had fun watching those movies, eating that food. And so work hard, have fun. And this guy had a car. So he was our best friend. And we traveled in that car, 5 people to a car, to that little car. We traveled from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, all the way to Toronto, Montreal, New York, and then going down south I mean, come off it, guys. Like, we are only poor students. We had no arrangements for sleeping anywhere, eating anywhere. But thanks to Murli, we got to do all these things. I mean, we have good memories of that time. I mean, think about it. It's almost 60 years, and we are still together. Until last week, Murli was with us. Then he didn't stop at that, and you can see throughout his life, he's always trying to learn new things. And three things that I noticed: Canadian or American popular music. And he tells me one time he came to my room and I was playing some classical music. And he says he fell in love with classical music, and his kids can tell you that is so cute. And we got one off-Broadway play there, and we all went there. I mean, the guy was like a sponge. He grabbed everything. And anyway, so that was our time in Saskatchewan. 1971, he finished his degree. He came after me. I came in 66, he came in 67. He finished his degree before I did. Okay, so what can I say? So 71, by that time he had met Elsie, and I remember saying goodbye to him when he flew to Australia. And Elsie, you were after him, right? About a year later? Anyway, so we lost contact from 1977 to 1971 to 77. These guys were gone. In the meantime, we finished our degrees and we left. 1977, there was Murli, Elsie, there was Aman. So it was a family now. And they had had enough of Australia and Papua New Guinea. And they came back to Saskatchewan. And lo and behold, that was the year I also went back to Saskatchewan. And both of us got this one job, teaching one class off campus once a week. So we were actually jobless. But we got to know each other again, got to eat his Indian cooking. And then he found a job here in Washington, George Washington University. That was in 1978. So I said, oh my God. So we knew each other and then split again. Am I boring you with all this history? No. Okay. So 2 years later, 1980, I got invited for an interview 222 miles from here. That's in Roanoke, Virginia. And I had the interview, but I didn't know if I'll get the job or not. But Murli found out that I am coming for that interview, so he said, hey, I'm only about 3.5 hours away from here, so why don't you stay for the weekend with us? I said, of course. we'll do that. So this guy drove for 222 miles to pick me up. How many people will do that? So he came there, I introduced him to our chair. I said, this is Dr. Gupta, Murli Gupta, and he's from Falls Church. Good thing that I told her that. Because I mean, Murli's phone rang 2 days later, and it was for me. I had no idea how they found out that phone number because I didn't tell them. And there was no internet at that time, you know. So anyway, that was a job offer. If I had not introduced Murli to that person, I would be standing in front of you today. So, did Murli do anything for me? I got the job. I had such a hard time. For 7 years, I didn't have a job. That was my first full-time job. That's one thing. And so we are in 1980. And so later on, you know, we realized, since I had told our chair his name and the name of the city, they used to have 411 at that time. So they figured out, okay, Murli Gupta and Falls Church, here's the number. Good job. Okay. So, once I got the job, it was 3.5 hours. I mean, my job was 3.5 hours away from here. So every 4 weeks or so, hey, it's the weekend, what are you doing? And so I said, well, nothing really. So why don't you come over? And I did. And so they got stuck with me. Okay. So, by that time, there were other kids. There was Manish, there was Monica, and there was Rahul, and Anu earlier. So, I became Uncle Bansi to all of them. And that thing has stuck. Now people keep asking me, how do you know that? I don't know. All right, so what did I notice about Murli in these years? So I think the most important thing to him now has been his children and his grandchildren. He loved them, I don't know, I've never seen anybody. I mean, he did so many things with them. So one time we were talking and he said, like, sometimes people ask him, like, why don't you leave your children at home and then go by yourselves, do something, have fun. If I leave them home, who is going to take them with me? I mean, without his children, it was. So, as I put down here, it says, he'll take them to the zoos and he'll take them to the museums. He'll take them to the parkways and he'll take them to the sea. he'll take them to the beach, and he'll take them to mountains. He'll take them to the libraries, and he'll take them to Kennedy Center. He wanted his children to learn every single thing that they could. And they did. Thanks to him. And his love for his grandchildren, I've seen this. Like every time he meets somebody new and they say, okay, you got children? Yeah. Got grandchildren? I got 7 of them. And you saw some of the pictures here. And they loved him back. Here's the thing, like, in their house, you open the outside door, and he's sitting out on the chair. And the grandchildren come in, they run to him before they say hello to anybody else. And I have a little story when his effect on children. One time, I have a nephew who lives near Toronto in Canada. And we went to visit with him. It was Thanksgiving and Elsie was gone somewhere, so Murli asked me if he could come with me. I said, sure, why not? So we went to their place, and they had, I don't know, 4 or 5-year-old kid. And so he got to know Murli. Oh, fine, it happens. So I think I went back a year later by myself. That guy was a year old. And so, do you know what his first question was? Not, how are you? He said, where's Uncle Murli? I said, hey, I drove 1,000 miles, Murli. But that's his effect. And, I mean, it's just, you know. So Poonam already told you about how he took care of his brother and sisters once their father passed away. But they want me to finish up. Just want to tell you one more thing. Murli's heart was so large that I have seen as many as 20 people stay at their place, and he didn't care. He says, we'll find room. You know, you want to come visit with me? Please come. So, anyways, I could go on and on about his generous heart, his understanding, his faith in himself. He never gave up. And his dedication to his teaching, which I will not talk about now. But I'm sorry the haphazard way I've given you these things. But there are just so many thoughts coming into my head. I can't keep them straight. So anyways, to all the members of the family, my heartfelt condolences. And to Murli, rest in peace, my friend. I'll wait for your word. Thank you.
We had a great time in Saskatoon. He kept in touch with us. Even 2 months ago, we have a common roommate of ours, Bansi and I, and with Surain. We are all from the same era. And one of our friends, one of our colleagues, he has been diagnosed with a terminal cancer. And they decided to have a living memorial so that we could go and say goodbye to him. Murli, myself, my wife, Nancy, Surain, we all traveled to Phoenix together. He was the guy making all the arrangements. He was the one who rented the car, he drove us to Sedona, 7 hours going and coming back. Excellent. Never thought of this man. We thought we will go there to be there to welcome him in heaven whenever he decides to come. And when I called Kailash, the fellow who was inflicted with that cancer, he said it was my turn. And we said, whose turn it is, he decides. And I'm sorry, he's gone and we are here. Elsie, we have known you as a Ukrainian dancer from Saskatoon as a young girl at the parties to becoming Murli's wife and our very strong, confident all these 57 years that we have known you. So our heartfelt condolences and heartfelt condolences to the entire family. Murli, we will miss you.
I think I see quite a few math professors back there, so I think Valentina was chosen to say a few words. Someone else?
Hello? Is it better now? I am Valentina Harizanov. I am professor of mathematics at George Washington University. And I've known Murli in many roles. First of all, as a colleague for my 30 plus years at GW, as a friend, and even as a chair. I will remember Murli as kind, warm, people-oriented, composed, comforting, and considerate. That doesn't mean that he wasn't resilient, and he always expressed his opinion and stated his arguments clearly, even when they were contrary to the expected ones. He was very generous. I had many conversations with him, big and small, in his office, which wasn't far from mine, usually during lunch break. Murli always brought his lunch, and he always insisted that I take part of it. And I really didn't want to take that last slice of apple that he brought, but he insisted, so I did. I will also remember him as a family man. He always spoke about his family, his wife, his mother, his children, and his grandchildren, and their many milestones and achievements. His children also went to GW, so there was a strong connection, a family connection with GW. I thought Murli was very dedicated to his long and distinguished service at GW. I thought he would never retire. But last spring, he started giving away many of his books to his colleagues and graduate students. There's a desk in front of my office with books that faculty give away. And last May, I sat and looked at those books that used to be in Murli's office. I even took a few. As Murli was a department chair for some years, and as department chair, he was very supportive of me, a female colleague in a heavily male-dominated math department. He trusted me as a woman. He appointed me to some of the most significant committees, and I'm proud to say that the outcome of these committees resulted in some very good hires and very good graduate students and very good happenings for the math department. Murli gave 46 years of his life to teaching, research, and service at GW. Our most senior colleague, Professor Yunken, recently wrote, "Very sad, I remember Tom Lieberman, that was the chair at the time Murli was hired, interviewing Murli for the job at the American Mathematical Society meeting. I also remember picking him at the National Airport at the start of his distinguished career at GW, a lifetime ago. Hard to believe he is gone." Considering Murli's research, he had a distinguished career in the field of applied mathematics that is called numerical analysis. He worked with so-called differential equations, where in addition to quantities, the derivatives are given, which are rates of changes. These equations often model very complicated phenomena of interest in science and even social science, and they're hard to solve exactly. So what's needed is approximate numerical solution, and that was his area of research. To do that, he needed to use computers or any kind of computing devices. At the beginning, they were very primitive. They were using punch cards as inputs, and later developed to be more sophisticated one. A few years ago, Murli gave me a bunch of these punch cards so I can show them to my students. Murli was involved in a big grant that our department got from the National Science Foundation to modernize computers. And so now he had more powerful devices to solve more and more complicated problems. MathSciNet is a database for peer-reviewed articles in mathematics. And there he has 34 research publications with 488 citations, which is a large number. He also has 300 reviews of other papers of other people that are also listed in MathSciNet. Murli traveled extensively for conferences to present his, both in the United States and abroad to several continents to present his research results. And when he retired last spring, he delivered a colloquium talk that's called My 50+ Years Journey from Numerical Analysis to Computational Fluid Dynamics. Regarding national service, Murli will be most remembered, in addition to being involved in advanced placement exams and tests, he'll be mostly known for his summer program for women in mathematics. He directed this national summer program for women in mathematics at GW, which was supported by NSA for 19 years, between 1995 and 2014. It's a 5-week-long program that helped undergraduate women cultivate math skills and consider pursuing graduate degrees. In addition to that, some of these women wrote, one of these women wrote to me, Murli's work with summer program for women program for women in mathematics impacted so many of our lives, and he was always so selfless and generous with all of us. I will always remember his kindness to me through the years. Within GW, Murli's service was a distinguished service in the Faculty Senate. And in the last 5 years, I was on the committee that, of the faculty, important Faculty Senate committee that had many members from various schools, and he chaired that committee. And when I informed the committee that Murli is no longer with us, I got many very deeply emotional comments from members of that committee from various schools at GW. I will only read a few. I have known Murli since I was a junior faculty. Murli, his wisdom, calm, and warm attitude will be missed very dearly. One of the most gracious and kind people I have the pleasure working with. Oh, you couldn't hear me? No. Okay, since we need to finish soon, I will just end with a comment of a professor from the School of Business. He said, Murli was one of the very small number of people in whom the entire campus had enormous trust. May he rest in peace. May he rest in peace, Murli.
No, they will do maybe at 11 o'clock. We have to, yes.
So the precinct is on a very tight timeline, so unfortunately we just have to up the program just a little bit. I just had a few words I wanted to say. I'd like to ask my wife Joanne to come out to give me just a little support, if that would be okay. And then afterwards we'll hear from my mom. We'll bring the microphone right to her.
Shivani, the daughter-in-law. I called him dad, and with treating him like a daughter. I used to tell him he's my favorite person in your whole family. He's like the coolest dad ever, coolest father-in-law ever. Him and I have created a special bond in the last few years. We bonded on a lot of things, starting from how we made it to America. Our dads were actually both in the government growing up, so we had similar upbringing. And we connected on little things like chai and dal and beauty and finding the best deals. We both love to do that. We will miss him very much. We had a very, very special bond with Jay, and we miss him dearly.
My dearest Scarlett, my most beloved friend. How I loved you. I feel so empty right now without you. You were the love of my life. I was with you till the very last breath. I saw you take your last breath. We met when I was only 20, and within a very short time, we knew this was forever. We've been together for 55 years, and married for 51 wonderful years. Through many joys and few sorrows, we were always committed to each other. Murli had immeasurable love for his 4 children. He was so proud of the beautiful and successful people they have become. But it was his grandchildren who gave him boundless joy. He was known as Grandpa to 6 of them, and he was Dadu to our youngest, Jay. He was always so excited we were going to visit our grandchildren when they were coming here. So happy. You could see the biggest smile, and his eyes just sparkled with joy when the children got here. And he would say, finally there's some noise in the house. There was nothing more important to him than that. There's an Indian celebration called the Rakhi, where sisters tie a special colorful string on their brother's wrist and feed them sweets. The celebration of Rakhi is the brother's promise to always look after their sisters. This was one responsibility Murli took seriously. He did his very best to try to be together with him and his brother for his sisters on the Rakhi. I want to thank God for every small blessing. He touched so many people, as is evidenced here today by all of you, coming from West Coast to East Coast, coming from driving up from Richmond, Virginia Beach today, and my two friends who flew in from Canada this morning just for this few hours. They have known Murli and me. They have known Murli and me from day one, from the day we met. And it's just so heartwarming to see all the support and love from his family, his friends, his neighbors, and all his colleagues. There is a Ukrainian tradition at funerals with two words that translate to eternal memory. They are sung, two words that keep repeating. Those will be my final words to Murli after I tell him how much I loved him. He's now in the arms of God. Those two words signify the service has ended. May his soul rest in peace. Vічная пам'ять, вічная пам'ять, вічная пам'ять.
If you would let the eldest son just say a couple words, if that'd be okay, just as quickly as I can here. When we drove in here yesterday, there were all sorts of cars along Spring Court. There were more than I'd ever seen before, and it occurred to me we have to rent a car now. In the past, he would pick you up at the airport. You didn't have to take a taxi or an Uber for the younger generation. He would pick you up. You didn't need a hotel. You had a place to stay. We've all seen the 20 people in the house. That's real. And you love to go out to dinner, and don't you dare pull out your credit card. Especially my generation. He covered that. That was what he did. And these photos, it was actually kind of hard to find photos because he was the photographer. You remember in the days of film camera, one person had to do that. There was no selfie with those cameras. He gave far more than it took. He gave far more than it took. And the thing that struck me is that he never wanted credit for it. He never asked for any of that. That was his values, taking on that burden of having a place to stay. That was what he did. And burden is my word, it's the wrong word. He never would have said burden. That wasn't a burden, that was a joy. That was his responsibility to take care of people. That's what he did because he felt that's what he was supposed to do. And I think everyone in the room probably benefited. I know I did. I know I took it for granted. And I know because he handled things, I maybe didn't handle as much as I should have. And I know that's a place I lost. He never complained about things. He never asked for credit. He never complained. And I have to speculate that there was a ton to complain about if he wanted to. He had 27,000 students by one count. He would tell us funny stories of things they complained about, but he never complained about the students. 4 kids, siblings moving to the US, renovating a house, there's plenty to complain about. He never did. He never did. Professor for 50 years, university administrations, you know, the politics that go on there. You could complain if you wanted to. But what does he do? He doesn't complain, he takes action. He joins the university senate. Right? That's the thing he did, that's the model he had. He traveled a lot. Again, that was him taking action. He moved from a small town in India to Mumbai. And, you know, I remember asking him why he left Mumbai, and he said the professors there were more interested in politics than mathematics. So what does he do? He moves again, he takes action, moves to Canada, not Toronto, not Vancouver, to Saskatoon. Again, before the internet, you can't look up how cold -40 is. Where does he go after that? He goes to Australia, and again, not Sydney, not Melbourne, he goes to Perth, way on the western side, because he takes action. That's his values, that's something that I've picked up from him. I think a lot of us have. I look at this room and I think just about everyone here has moved for your career or for your family or for whatever reason you've moved somewhere else for school. You've done that. He would take on that burden. There's, you know, being up here today, looking at this schedule here, I realized, you know, this is the sort of thing he would do. You know, I have to step up. He would handle it, and he'd know what to do, and how that burden, you know, falls on us. It falls on us. It falls on me. It falls on you. It falls on all of us. And so it just seems to me, if you want to remember him, you want to honor his memory, take on that burden. Take care of each other, because that's what he did for us. Thank you all very much. Aniji, thank you. Over to you. Just to occur to you don't have the schedule here. There's a little bit more of the ceremony. We're going to walk around the father and just do a few more things.
Oh,